had
All
so many
right.
technical difficulties. We're almost an hour into trying to get this thing started. Thank goodness we got it going. We said our little prayer before we started. So we're ready to go. I wanted to thank you. Last week I went to your home. We had a great conversation about your family, little things about your past and your coaching and all that good stuff. But mainly, I think most of our conversations was talking about Jesus and
Yeah.
different topics about the Jesus in himself. And we can come back to that later. But I thought it was I thank you for letting me come into your home. It was a beautiful home. I've been there before. Got to see Carrie, your wife, and I just enjoyed my little visit. I could have stayed there longer, but I would have to ask your wife to cook something because I was getting hungry.
Well, that'd have been fine. We would be glad to have you. Are you kidding me?
But anyway, I just want to thank you for that. It was a great visit, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. And
Yeah, sounds good.
I want to start off talking about our high school days. I want to ask you a question, and I'll give you my quick experience as we started our freshman year. I don't know where you went in junior high. Was it Baker or
Yeah,
your
Baker.
Baker Junior
Baker.
High?
Yeah.
I briefly recall it was a big deal when LaPorte Junior High and Baker Junior High played. I don't know did you play on the football team? Because I don't even remember you.
Yeah.
You did? I
The
remember
seventh
other
grade
guys.
was the seventh grade. They had, and we only played each other's junior highs. Y'all had three teams, like the Mongrels,
No,
the
but I'm talking
Grizzlies.
about the eighth grade. That's when.
Well, eighth grade, I had a broken arm. I didn't get to play.
Oh, that's
That's why
why.
I didn't play that year because it would have been, I would have been either the quarterback or the tailback, but I didn't
Yeah,
get.
yeah.
Steve Buxton ended up being our tailback
Right.
since I
Yeah.
wasn't there to. It
Yeah,
would have
we
been me and him. We were getting ready. He was going to be one back and I was the other. And I think Thomas Bussey was actually in our class. He stayed back, so he wasn't going to be the fullback. It was going to be us three. And I think Randy
oh,
Kilpatrick was going to be the quarterback, I think, if it
yeah.
would have stayed like that. Who knows? It would have evolved. But I broke my arm in the summer and then broke it again in the fall, before, just before. So twice, and I didn't play eighth grade football.
I want to say that that offensive line that you had in eighth, I know we're talking junior high right there, but it ended up being basically a starting the offensive line back in the junior high. Baker ended up being the starting offensive line our senior year, just about.
Yeah.
If not mistaken. And that was kind of I was, and the running backs were from LaPorte Junior High, except for Bussy. It was Bob Cook and Mike Prokopuk.
Right.
And of course Ricky Byers was a quarterback, but Julian Buentella was our starting quarterback originally. Have no idea why they pulled him. He did a great job because we were undefeated when he got, Ricky Byers popped in the scene. But back in our freshman year, man, I tell you what, I was in a rude awakening. Our practices, we had no water break. We had two water breaks, I think it was, and I found that I remember going one time. What was your experience with that freshman year of football? It was terrible for me. It was like hell broke loose on me, man. It was so hot and their coaches were so mean. What'd you feel about that, man?
Well, it just depends on your perspective. Your perspective as a 14-year-old freshman kid, it seemed just everything that you just said, which is it was. But when
Yeah.
you reflect back on it, you see it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. It was just new experiences, and for me anyway, new experiences. Not being sure, not playing eighth grade, wanting to show everyone, hey, I think I'm better than anyone out here, anyways. And you're not sure. You got new coaches. You don't know what to think of them, and you don't know what to do. It's hotter than heck. They're running the crap out of you. They didn't really know about how to condition you with the object of, hey, getting in shape means it takes longer to get winded and you're quicker to recover. They wasn't really sure, but we were on the beginning part of weight training, stretching, conditioning like they do now. They know much more now.
Oh,
I don't know that they know so much. Run the crap out of you, and you better like it because here we come again.
yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those
that's
things
about
where it was kind of a discipline thing at first, which is what I needed. But if you're trying to get a well-oiled machine, getting the kids to buy into, like, hey, if you want to be great every play, you got to be in shape. So you're not over there sucking wind, and the coach is having to say, I got to get someone in there because you can't be winded. That actually happened to me. I was about to score on a touchdown practically because they kept calling my number on that sophomore year at quarterback, and I just remember I ended up I'm being honest with myself. I went out of bounds when I could have fought for more yardage. And when I think, why did I do that? Well, I was tired. They ran me three plays in a row or something. So being in better condition would have been helpful. So when I look back, I think everything that you said, they were harsh, they were tough, but they were just doing their job. I should have embraced it. But when you're 14, you look at it from 14-year-old eyes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And yeah, you're right. And then when we got in our senior year, I think that was the year before. I believe the Laporte ended up being co-champions in their district, which started the role of winning attitude, winning everything at Laporte. And so as far as forward, no, we didn't win state championships, but we were winners. We were not losers from the year before. In our senior year, we kind of like our year was special because we only lost one game in the season completely, and we should have never lost that game, but we did. But we were the first team ever to go to the Astrodome. That was a big deal for Laporte. I think there was 33,000 plus fans. But looking back at our senior year in our games, how did you? I'm going to tell you how I felt, but after I want to hear from you. How did you feel before a game every Friday, before we got on the field? What was your feelings before we even started that ball game?
Senior year or any year?
Any game, but basically our senior year.
Well, senior year was different, because things that had changed for me as far as what I was doing and what I was expected to do and what my relationship with the coaches were then. So I was resigned to be where I was and was fine with it. As far as I was excited. I knew we had a good team. I knew that things were happening. I knew we had good coaches. I knew we had good preparation. But at the time, it just was a blur because I knew we had a good team. I knew we were doing well. I did believe in the coaches, and I thought we put in all the prep work. Now that I look back, I see we were a good team, that we did have the players, but we fell short, in my opinion, of being completely there. I'm not blaming it on the coaches. They did great. It needed someone to step up and say this is where we're going to fall short, but I'm saying that all with, like, anybody could do. When you're older, you think that way. It just needed somebody with mature eyes to say we need a little bit more conditioning here, um a little bit more understanding of the offense, because we were just short the team of being able to be right there, to be one of the teams that, a good play here or there that could have won the state championship. You got to remember, when Coach Lundin came our freshman year, that was our first year to move up into the what was called 4A, which is the top notch play for then. So it just took him 2 years to have a team that was already competing, which you had to win district to get in the playoffs then. So it only took him 2 years to be right there with the big schools. And I always thought of us as a smaller school. And in short order, he brought us right to be competitive, if not better. I just don't know that I do know when I look back, I didn't really have a full idea of the big picture, which means when they tell you put everything into it, you only get one chance of this and all that, sort of those cliches, but they're so true. And had we done a little bit more, we probably could have got a little bit more. I think we did really good. I think our coaches did good. I just know I had a lot more in me to give.
Oh yeah, well I think we hindsight, yes, yes, I could have done better, been better prepared. I tell you how I felt before every game. I was scared.
You're just nervous. It's not really you're scared.
I was scared. I think I spent a lot of hours in the restroom before a game, so nervous, and I was just frightened not to be knocked down. I didn't want that in front of everybody. I had so much pressure on me because my brothers, they all were Bulldogs. I don't know if you were aware, but I have three, Richard and Roy, that were Bulldogs. They started and all that. They were very good, all district honors and all that. I had a lot of pressure on me. And then to be moved from my normal position to the secondary. But no, in reality, Larry, I was every game I was scared. I was frightened. That's why I took my fright, my fear onto the field and started hitting people legally and not legally, just so they can be scared of me instead of me being scared of them.
And
That was my
that's good.
mindset.
And actually, that's that nervous energy. I wouldn't say it's fear. It's fear of not doing well, not doing your best. And I
Yeah.
would say that's a good thing. And you did channel it and got the most out of yourself. I would have just told you to redefine that fear. It's not fear. You're just worried that you didn't get everything out of yourself and that you weren't going to step up and get it made to your brother's acceptance. And I would say you did do that. You did motivate yourself and go in the right direction. And any fear was, I would say, if you have that after knowing that about yourself, it just means you have a little bit more preparation to do. Because with more preparation, just means all that energy you transferred just means you just waiting to dominate. And that's what I was telling you before. When I realized some of the players that I like the best, they had that innate sense about playing the game. And I would have told you spend more time not being fearful, but see the game that I know you're fixing to play. And what I'm saying about that is not only in baseball, but also in football, especially you could sense a play fixing to happen. You kind of knew, and you could innately do. You couldn't call it as a defensive coordinator, but you felt it, you sensed it, and you had it, you made it happen. And I would say that was a prerequisite to film study. We had a little bit of film study, but not like they probably do these days. And you just made it happen with a little bit of film study. Though you're just had that innate sense. That was my favorite thing about players, and I would have loved to coach you. And I understand what you mean. I think we all had that nervous energy before a game, but I would say for me, and I think probably a little for you, that nervous energy just meant I'm nervous. I'm not going to do good enough. Well, if I think I don't know the answer to the test, I better sharpen up my practice for the
True.
test. But when
Very
you
true.
know you got all the right answers, you can't wait to get out there. You know you're fixing to shine.
Yeah, man. And there's I love my senior year. It was so much fun. And then going back to football, I mean, we had I think we were short in one position when we needed to pass, or that's where we were short at. And Julian Buentello was by far a better passer than our starting quarterback. Nothing taken away from Ricky Byers. He was a great runner, but I think Julian Buentello was not only a good runner, he was a great passer and also a great leader. He would have been a better leader in crunch times and things of that nature. But it is what it is. Ricky went on to have a great high school career, and he went to college for a brief time. And it's all good. We had great athletes that year. It really was a good time. And also going back, we also play baseball. I think we're probably the best 5-25 team in the state of Texas. We lost a lot of games by 1 or 2 runs. A lot of games. I think it was like 14 or 15 games like that.
Yeah.
So we had. I don't want to say we had great coaches. I think we had Coach Teich to me, was a great coach, a great person to learn from. That outside of baseball, he was a great teacher of life as well. That's what I got from him, you know. And what you think about our baseball team? I think we had a very good team. Let me give you one little hindsight. Our pitch, we were playing against Pasadena. Pasadena was ranked in state when we're playing them and Dobie. They were both ranked in state. We threw a no-hitter against Pasadena. I'm not sure if you really remember that. Me and Thomasy threw a no-hitter and still lost. That's the type of team we had. We just didn't had a lot of hits. We couldn't produce the runs.
Yeah.
But how'd you feel? I know you played varsity baseball, I think, as your sophomore year or
freshman. I was on the freshman.
Yeah, you're a 4-year letterman.
I came up on the varsity after a couple of weeks, and I was already on. I didn't play my first game on varsity. I came in like the 4th inning, and then I started every game after that.
Yeah, and you're a very good ball player, man. I'll never forget the times when I played third base. I think I hit varsity my junior year, and my senior year I was on varsity. But every time you got the ball thrown third, it's like, oh shit, here comes that ball, man, and it's going to go hard at me, you know. So you had a very good arm, you had a very good bat. You're just a good all-around player, good athlete, and you were good in the dugout. You were always pumped up and pumped everybody else up to get the game going. As far as your position, you were in the outfield, and you always stayed in the center field. I don't think you ever moved from center field from freshman all the way to senior. I think you stayed in center field. Is that correct?
Coach Tice had me pitch freshman and sophomore year.
Well, that's
and
fun.
I finished pitching against Deer Park my sophomore year, and actually I remember what sticks out of my head is one of their best players, who was an awesome player and pitched for U of H, played for U of H, Robert Riley. I remember striking him out, and he was so frustrated. It's not that I was anything great. I just think he was thinking, how could I be striking out against this guy? I know I could rip him, but I think going into my junior and senior year, as far as pitching goes, I don't think I pushed Coach Tice for asking for it, and I think incidents maybe in football may have bled over into baseball. Now that when I look back and so, how come he didn't ask me this? So I kind of think things that were happening with me in football, quarterbacking, and all that. I think when I look back on it, even though Coach Tice didn't ever address it with me or say anything, he was fine with me just staying in the outfield. I didn't say anything, and I always felt like, I was always hard on myself. I always thought I wasn't good enough. It wouldn't matter how many people I struck out. If I walked too many if we didn't win, I thought it was my fault. Instead of analyzing it like a player should. And so really, if you can't handle the pressure, then you can't pitch. If it bothers
Yeah.
you that you're walking people, and I was erratic. I could strike people out. I could even throw a no-hitter. Well, I remember throwing a no-hitter one time at 14. And I think I had a whole bunch of strikeouts, but a whole bunch of walks and hit batters. So, if you're going to have that many, I mean, as a coach, I'm not going to put up with more than 2 walks before I get you out of there and think I got to go. We can defend anything but a walk. So I don't mind that he didn't, but that's where I stayed. And I just wanted to hit. When I look back on it, I probably should have seen, pitching is just repeat. It's the same repetition. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. And we had enough good pitchers doing it. If you're reminding me that you and Paul were pumping a no hitter and we're not backing you up with some runs, and that means we're getting some pitching. So they didn't really need me. But yes, I did play that as a sophomore, and I don't know that he put me in as a freshman. I can't recall. I want to say no, he didn't. I don't
As a
remember.
pitcher?
Yes, as a pitcher. I don't remember pitching
I
any
don't
games
know.
as a freshman, but I remember going against some really good pitchers my freshman year from these other teams had played some good stuff. So
Well, yeah, Deer
yeah, but
Park. Deer Park, I think,
well,
if
Deer
not
Park,
mis
my freshman year was a state team. They went to state and then they won state in American Legion in the summer ball. They actually had a guy that played for the Cincinnati
Dwayne Walker.
Reds, Dwayne
Dwayne
Walker. Yeah,
Walker.
yeah,
Yes.
they had a bunch of good players in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
team.
yeah. I remember watching him pitching against you guys. I think JB was on the varsity as well as a freshman, if not
Yeah,
mistaken.
JB came up
Yeah.
a little bit after I did,
Yeah, yeah.
about a
And I
month later.
remember, I remember, I remember the game against Deer Park. Dwayne Walker was pitching. He was throwing heat, man. And yeah, it is what it is. We just couldn't produce runs against people, but yeah, that baseball was special. I recall my baseball years. It was fun. And basketball, I remember you and I being on the freshman B team, not the A
Yeah.
team, the B team. However, we're a very good team as well. I remember
Well,
practicing.
we were in the an A team tournament, and I remember I got
We
all
beat
tournament. I got
you
I
and
was on
I,
one of
you and
the
I, you and I
yeah.
got the
So
all
we
tournament
we
team.
we weren't too awful if we could
No, we were
compete.
not, because we beat Dobie's A team very first game. And JB's last second shot. I remember, I'll never forget that game. And then against the next game against Pasadena, we came 4-6 points from beating them. So we could have been in the finals
Well, I
right
remember
there.
playing Deer Park Save team
Oh, they
with
killed us.
Nikki Snell, and they were just toying
Oh,
with us
88,
like,
dude, it
it's
was
like
88,
nothing.
88 to 28.
They were playing above the rim like I'd never seen before. So
Yeah, that was like, oh, Ricky Snell went to Lamar. Remember him?
Nikki
He went,
Snell.
yeah, Nick
Yeah, I
Snell.
remember.
He went
Yeah.
to Lamar, and transitioning from high school. I remember you went to Lamar. I think you went to A&M first, if not mistaken, or did
Nikki?
you?
I did. Yes. I went on scholarship to Alvin and then wanted to keep playing football. So I relinquished it and went to A&M.
Yeah.
And then so it just went from there.
It's
Yeah,
just
I did go
different.
to A&M for a year before I went to Lamar.
Right. I forgot about Alvin. I think I went to the same schools you did,
You sure
except for
did.
A&M. I went to
You sure did.
Alvin. But me, let's just real quick. Me, I ain't gonna talk about me because all I did was things I shouldn't be doing, and I didn't focus on my studies, and that's where that went. So, but I remember you at Lamar. I was your roommate at the football dorm at Lamar. We had a lot of good times, and I was real frustrated at Lamar only because, and this is where preparation comes into play. They were big on that, and I remember the defense. we had a book like that thick to study. I said, what? Study? What do you mean study? I don't need studying. I know what's going to happen, you know? And sure enough, in practice, even our red and white scrimmage or whatever, I did my thing. And I got plenty of tackles. I made people fumble because I knew what was going to happen. I go get sacks. It didn't matter. Coach told me, dude, we didn't call that defensive play. Well, coach, I know what I knew that was going to happen. I felt like it was going to happen. So I went there. It doesn't matter, because if it was a different play, a trick play, you would have been out of your lane, and there goes a touchdown, because if you think you know more than me. That's true. That is so
No,
true. So
there's truth in what they're saying too, that you got to have discipline, but they also have to be wise enough as coaches to realize that innate sense that a player has to be unleashed. It can't be tamed. It's got to be a mixture of both. Now,
well,
if the player is saying, "Look, I don't need any of your stuff. I'm not even going to bother with studying, and I can just do my own thing and always turn out," well, then no, you're wrong. But
yeah,
there's a discipline that comes, but don't take away the thing that makes you you. That innate sense of I think I know what's going on. There's a meshing and a merging of the two.
that's true. And I think a lot of it, and well, we'll get to why I didn't study, or my schooling and all that good stuff. But I remember you at Lamar, and I thought, if not mistaken, Kelly Hansen was there,
Yeah.
and Paul Thomas, he was there, and it was a good time again. It was like having a great day, a great time. I had a really good time at Lamar as well, but it didn't pan out for you, Lamar. I don't know why, because I think I left before you did. But what caused you to leave Lamar?
Um, ready to get married. As far as look, going to playing sports out of after high school was just searching for me, and I didn't have the discipline. I wanted to look when I look back at it with wiser eyes, and I'll say wiser eyes two different ways. Once with coach's eyes, I wanted to be treated like I was a star instead of being told, well, who are you? You didn't even earn that right yet. And even if you were a star, realize he starts back at the bottom. He says, yes, sir, no, sir, does what he's told, and works and earns his way up the ladder. So I had no concept of thinking that I was coming to. So when I wasn't being my ego stroked at Alvin, I was like, okay, I want to play football anyways. Every time I was lifting weights, he didn't like that. And he was just telling me the right thing to do to get ready for baseball. But I kept thinking, oh, I can play everything. I was thinking I was a Bo Jackson before Bo Jackson came on the scene yet, and I was not. So the first thing that an athlete has to realize is who they are. What can you be? Not what do you want to be? That's great to push yourself, but if you have an inflated version of yourself, well, then you're not. And that's what I did. I should have realized, look, I was good enough to be a good high school football player. Beyond that, you better start focusing down. And I should have stuck with baseball and just run with it. I thought I was good enough to play both, thereby saying, okay, I'm done with you here at Alvin. I'm going to go play baseball and football at A&M. And I needed a grandpa, and I say it that way because I'm a grandpa now. And a grandpa would have said, hey, let me talk to you about what you're thinking, a little slap on the head and say, here's what you need to consider, and consider the whole overall picture. Would I have been mature enough to take that advice? I don't know. But what it ended up doing for me is I went searching for another, oh, I'm going to be great at football at A&M. And then, hey, there's guys a lot better than me at A&M. So now you're in line. So I never got back into the baseball thing because I'm trying to do football. And because I kept thinking, okay, well, there's a lot of guys better than me, guys that are going to the NFL that are already over there. So I started thinking I should play football so I could coach it one day. But I should have just had the discipline, get your education, play the sport that God gave you a little more ability in, meaning baseball. I could have been playing for sure, and then move on. So what ended up happening at A&M's, oh, I'm not good enough to play here. There's too many guys. I'm too far behind the pecking order. So I went to looking, thinking I could play at Lamar. And then by the time I went there, then it got to be where me and my ended up going to be wife, her, Carrie. We ended up thinking, you know what, we need to start making our way in this world. So all poor decisions, all immature decisions, but that's kind of rough shot of what I was thinking at the time.
And that's what made you who you are. All these decisions we make it through life, good or bad. It is what that's what makes you who you are. And I remember now you jumped the gun there, as far as and actually it comes right talking about college, and now we're going to go back to Carrie. I know you and Carrie, if not mistaken, you guys were boyfriend, girlfriend, freshman year in high school, for sure.
No, actually, we didn't start dating until right before our junior year. I knew her.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. We went out the first date in '76. I think I took her to what was the show? The Bad News Bears. We went to the Bad News Bears. That's what we went to see. That was the first date we went on.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, no, and then from then on it was from on. But I knew her from the neighborhood. I just never thought to ask her out. Never. She was 1 year behind me, so it never occurred to me. The funny thing is when we first both moved to College Park in '68, I think they were building a new store somewhere around that first year, and I remember seeing her. There's mounds of dirt, as they were getting ready for construction. And I
Right.
remember all the little kids were there playing King of the Mountain or whatever. And I remember coming down that hill and I looked over and I saw this little girl. I was like, well, who's that cute little girl? And I just had this feeling like, I don't know what it was, but I remember keeping like, who's that little girl? Never dated her, but when I did ask her, I remember, oh, you're that one I remember seeing when I was little. I don't know, strange.
Yeah. Yeah. You were all into Carrie ever since I've known you. I don't know why I thought you guys were dating since freshman year, but as it doesn't really matter. You guys, I don't know. Ever since I've seen you guys together, I've never seen you apart. Obviously, because you've been together since then. So
Right.
you've been married how many years now? Oof, 30?
Mhm.
More than that.
Well, in '82, so whatever, do the math.
No, I didn't do that.
40, 42,
That's amazing.
43.
And that is
Wait, 41.
you don't hear that anymore in the life we live now, in the world we live now. 40 some odd. My parents were married 60 some odd years, and you guys are at 40 already, and you're still young. You guys,
Mm.
that has a lot to do with God, of course, because being married is not an easy task. It's not an easy task because you got different personalities and yeah, all that good stuff. And you go through bad times, good times. But I think if your foundation is great, anything that happens, you go back to your foundation, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And then he kind of like
Absolutely.
guides you through everything. You just gotta. I know that when I have issues in my life, I learned late to say, even though I've been a Christian for many years, but doesn't mean I'm perfect. We all know that. But I remember one time when I knew I was going to get laid off, and it's like, oh my, I get all sick because I'm worried, and I go, one day I said, you know what, I heard a sermon, and I don't know who said it or what preacher. It doesn't matter. All I know was the sermon was the words from God. Put all your worries in my hands. Let me do that for you. You do your part. You look for a job, but don't worry about it. I'm going to provide for you. You
Right.
know, and, and ever since then, any obstacle that pops in my life, I have plenty of them. That's what I do, and I'm more at ease. I'm not stressed. It just like, okay, this is happening. Yeah, okay, Lord, just here it is, man. I've been thanking you for all the good things you've done for me, and I've been thanking you for all the bad things you've done for me, because that's what strengthens me.
Right. No, you're
It
exactly
is.
right.
So, but anyway, you guys, 40 some odd years, it's a
Mm.
long time, man. And I think your grandkids, your children, now you have grandkids. Obviously, your loyalty is to your wife and your wife is to you. And there's a reason why in the Bible it says to your husband or your wife, they are number one. And that's your family. That's where your children can see the relationship you have together as love. And that way, when your children grow, they seek the same thing. They see your
Mhm.
parents loving each other. They see your
Absolutely.
parents glorifying God all the time. They see all this. They see this. So when they grow up, that's normal to them. and they seek that, and they get
No,
that,
I agree.
So that's why it's important. A lot of people kind of look at me funky sometimes when I say your family, your number one priority in any marriage, and you can have 5 kids, is your wife, not your kids. Your number one priority is your wife, because there's a reason for that. Because your children will leave. They're gonna have their own families.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It's a chain, man. It's a chain that will continue on from your fruit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
absolutely. I
so that's
absolutely
why
agree with
that's
you.
why I admire. That's why I admire, and I like it when you say you've been married for 40 plus years. It's like it's so hard to do, but it can be easy at the same time. It can
Well,
be.
no, it probably is challenging for a lot of people, and
Sure.
I'm not saying it wasn't challenging for me and Carrie either. I always knew that she was someone I'd wanted to be with and be married to. However, since you brought the Lord into it, I didn't always realize what a blessing it was to have that wonderful love. I didn't really know what love was until I really accepted Jesus into my heart. Once that happened, and once I started a prayerful daily relationship with him and understood what love meant, well, then what I sometimes would feel like when I was younger, like, oh, it's great to have this wonderful love with my wife at such a young age, but I missed out on all the other times. But then I realized, no, the Lord blessed me with the greatest love of all, the love of unconditional, beautiful love, and that love has been reciprocated from Carrie back to me. That's one thing to know that you have that love, but it took for me to understand what love really was, that it's something special to give of yourself in a relationship with the person you love most, that's been blessed by the Lord Almighty. And when you do that, it's so special. Anything else that detracts from that beautiful love, when you give of yourself and in a joyful embrace and a loving embrace, anything that takes away from that is it's pornography. It's terrible. It's nothing. It's meaningless. And so that made me really appreciate what I had been blessed with. And I didn't long for, oh, I should have been able to date and have all these other women. I didn't need that or want that. I hated myself for thinking that I even thought that I missed out. I realized I had been blessed with this beautiful reciprocal love, and I embraced it and said, thank you, Lord. But that's the part about having the Jesus in your life. Once I knew what love was, I didn't look at any other girl with any other desire or any other anything. I just looked at, you know, at the wonderful love that I had, and that you're right, it does bless your other children by them seeing that loving commitment. But it wasn't hard to be committed to her once, especially when I thought, what a beautiful thing to have this soaring, beautiful relationship. And I didn't at all think of anyone else in any way. Matter of fact, I hated myself when I was younger to even let passing thoughts go through that, like somehow, you should been able to, go do all this, then have it. No, I got blessed at a young age with this beautiful person. And it wasn't just that I felt that way, she felt the same way. And
Yep.
that's that unifying, two becoming one. And every year that goes by, I feel like how much I've been blessed. And I try to pass that on to them and pass it on to my kids and grandkids to realize that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who loves Jesus also, and that you can share in that relationship. And once Jesus shows you what real love is, you know how to exude it to everyone else.
That's great, man. That's true. That is so true. Now, how many children do you have?
Three. The funny
3.
thing is, we always would talk about having 3 kids when we'd come, drive back or forth from college. But now that I read more about God and everything else, I wish we would just let God see how many. We knew 3, and then that was it. I kind of miss having seeing if the Lord would might have wanted us to have a few more, but 3 is what we have, and that's fine.
Yeah, but how many grandkids you have?
So far, 5.
Well, there you go. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
3 kids, 5 grandkids, 8 kids.
yeah.
That's
No,
it,
I
man.
love it. I just love being a father, and I love being a grandfather. So it makes
Yeah,
you think. If I was going back, I would probably see if uh, if Carrie would have see what she would have thought about with more, and then I would have said a prayer and see what the Lord thought about it, and then hey, I would have liked to have a few more children, but that's okay.
yeah. And in notes, I saw it when I went to go visit your house. You have pictures of your grandkids, you have pictures of all your family, and it shows the love in that home. I feel it. And I saw your grandson in there, um, you know, just being a grandkid with their grandma spoiling them. That's
Yeah.
what it's supposed to be, man.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, man. That's wonderful, brother. And now going back after you got married and things like that, you became a fireman.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what year that started, but you retired with 32 years of service.
Yes.
It's always been a Kingwood or Houston or
No, I got in the fire department my senior year of college just by chance. I was waiting to talk to my supervisor or counselor or whatever, and to see what courses to take next. And I happened to read a brochure from the fire department. HFD said they'd pay for college, and I had just got married to Carrie, so I was like, well, I'm going to pay for my college, and that's how it started. So once I got in the fire department, I enjoyed the camaraderie of team stuff. I love helping the community. We were held in high regard, and so it was just a way to get back to finishing school because I just wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a coach. But the fire department took hold and I sort of liked it. It's like being on a team and stuff. And once I started having children, I wanted to be a dad and a Mr. Mom more than I wanted to be a coach. So that's kind of how the fire department took hold. And then once you get those years in and your kids start to do their activities, I wasn't going to school to finish anything. I was just doing their things with them. So
when you get into a job like that, it's like a police officer or someone like that. It's for your public service. There comes dangers to that, and I'm pretty sure that Carrie has some nervous days, nervous nights. And what was the worst thing that happened to you as far as being a fireman? What you saw, the ugly part of that job?
well, the ugly part is seeing everybody in distress. They're having their worst moments. There's lots of dangers inside of a burning building with it collapsing or you falling in if you're on the roof, that sort of thing. You know that going in, and you can take precautions, and it doesn't mean that it can't be horrific. But none of those things ever happened to the extent that I ever felt totally threatened. I mean, it's part of the deal. The part that really gets to you is the EMS part. When you see people in medical situations that are terrible, horrific, or whatever, those don't even bother me to the extent because that's life, that's God's plan, and you're there to help them out and get them through it and calm them down. The part that sticks with you is when it happens to children. That part kind of sticks with you, and you cling to your kids when you see that happen. And when it happened, some of these more terrible ones that are running through my head right now, I remember when it was over, it still stayed with me, and I called home and we just talked to Carrie and, hey, how's our kids doing? That sort of thing. So
Yeah.
when my children came and said they expressed an interest that they wanted to be a fireman, I wasn't worried about them being a fireman. I knew they could go handle fighting fire and all that. And hey, if accidents happen, that's part of the deal. It was the EMS part that I wanted to go find out. Did they have the stomach for? Can you deal with people in their tragic situation? You're trying to do your job to help a gunshot injury or whatever the tragedy may be, a choking, and you've got all these screaming people behind you trying to say, help me, help me. Can you handle it? Can you go home at the end of the day and separate it and then get back to your life without it, taking a toll on you? Those are the things that can kind of get you. I'm not saying I was the best at it, but I knew that was life. And I can tell you this, it's a lot easier to go through those things if you got the Lord on your side and not on your side, but in your heart, in your life. You can handle them and know them that all the good and the bad that's happening in the world, you can handle a lot better with the Lord in your life. I have to say, I've always know this is the weird what I'm trying to say here. I'd like to say I went through the fire department years with Jesus in my life, but I can't say that. I knew who he was. I went to church. I did everything. Tried to read the Bible, but at that point, I had to say I went through the motions more than I really knew how to apply Jesus to my life. So those years that I went through the fire department, even during those up and down times of dangerous or seeing people at their worst moments, um, I guess I sort of knew inside how to handle it, but it would have been a lot easier had I been where I am now, feeling what the feelings I do now with Jesus in my life. And you'd say, well, what's the difference? Well, for me, the difference was accepting Christ and actually taking the steps that baptism would bring. Me and you talked about this earlier. And that is really just asking Jesus into my heart, saying the words that I heard Billy Graham say, and I just repeated it and repeated it again. And then I just didn't just say it. I started every day opening the Bible and reading devotionals and searching for people that were in the same place as me, trying to find answers. And history's littered with people of substance are just looking for answers. And there's lots of learned people that have been searching, and through them I found some of the same answers that I was searching for, and that's finding Jesus in your heart. And once that happens, boy, does life explode into everything that happens. And you, like you said, you thank him for the blessings of the good, but you also thank him for the trials in your life, because they strengthen you and they make you who you are.
It's true. Very much
And
true.
you know that a better day is coming. And I don't mean necessarily a better day on this earth. I mean a better day in heaven. And it's just all been awesome to me.
That's great. That's a good testimony there, brother. I appreciate that. And you know, briefly, I will talk about the little stint. I think I told you, I'm not sure if I told you, but when I worked at a hospital, Herman Hospital, there was a burn unit that I had to go into. Herman Hospital, back many years ago, they were probably one of the first hospitals that had computers in the patients' rooms. This was many years ago. And of course, you have kids that play with the computers, and they call you, and hey, the computer's not where the nurse would call. I had to go there and fix it, whatever. I had to go to the burn unit and where the children were. I could not handle that. I didn't last very long. I went there 5 times. You had to dress up. You had to full gear, to protect them from germs and things of that nature.
Right.
But I heard so many screams, and I would walk out crying. I just
Yeah.
couldn't handle that. But it's that's why I wanted to ask you that question about your job as a fireman, because I couldn't even imagine seeing that at all. But you went through it. I think everyone should be able to say thank you for your service on that, just like a soldier, because you helped people, you protected them, and things of that nature as much as you could.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Lots of people. That's what it is, a nice thing for people. The public
Sure.
would come by, and especially ones that had an incident with, they would come by and express their thanks and their gratitude. Always drop things off, and of course that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
And it's just great to be a part of helping them. But with the Lord in your life, you can realize you were there at their worst times, and it makes you feel good to know that you were there. And so it's a little bit of strengthening.
So you retired from being a fireman. Now, what the heck led you to coaching? I know you always wanted to be a coach. How far in between, after being retired from the fire department, you started coaching at the private school? Was it
Well,
years? Or?
once I started Mr. Mom in it, and then by the time my kids got into school, we needed extra money. Fireman, you're not making a great deal of money, right? And even though Carrie was in real estate, we still seemed like we needed extra money. So I got a side job. So many years I had 2 jobs, and during those years I was coaching all these teams, baseball mostly, and lots of people liked what they saw. And through those years, we had many select teams, and that led to Northeast Christian. They had one of the dads, or who's a pastor there, said I coached his kid, and he told that they had their baseball coach, their athletic director. He told their athletic director about me, because they were going to be needing a baseball coach, and that's how that happened. I was at the end of my years of in the fire department, so I just quit my side job on one, and that became my side job. So you don't have to teach to coach at a private school, and
Okay.
they needed it. They needed a coach, and that worked perfect for me. So
And then while you were coaching there, I I probably, and this is after you left coaching, that's when I found out you coached. And then you end up winning 4 state championships in the state of Texas, right there in
yes,
Kingwood. And I was like, what? I don't know who told me, or I might have accidentally read it, because I was always one of those that look at the Chronicle online, or on the newspaper or whatever, and I saw an article somewhere. I don't know how, where I saw you, and
They had
like,
some good articles in the Chronicle about us once
yeah,
we won
yes,
the state championship.
correct. And I found one, and I'll try to post that little article on here, but I was like, wow, this is embarrassing. I haven't talked to Larry in how many years, and I didn't know this about him. But anyway, I thought that was a great thing. And what's the greatest? I don't know. I guess the word satisfaction is not the word I'm trying to say. The greatest enjoyment you had coaching those kids, those young men, because I think as being a young guy, I try to put myself back in their shoes. They're competitive. They want to win, things of that nature. And sometimes they might not have the team to win, but they still win. So it has to be a team effort. It has to be good coaching. You don't have good coaching, you're not going to win state championships, okay? Especially four. So what was the greatest enjoyment you had during that time period of year one, being state champion, 2, 3? You won 3 in a row. 3-peat, could have been 4, but you said you ran your team out of that state championship, whatever. Then the following year you won it again. So what's the main thing you got out of coaching children? And I call them children because they are young men. They're not of age yet, So what was your delight, man? What was
Well,
it
I
like?
mean, the whole thing, it was the light, but what I got out of it the most, the thing that I enjoyed, and I always tried to do, even at the younger level when they were younger, that led to coaching in high school, is I was trying to teach the greater good. I always knew whatever we're talking about at baseball, whatever drills we're doing, whatever dedication we have, whatever you're doing daily, I wanted them to take those life lessons, those things that we were applying to baseball, and apply them to life. Because I said, we're talking about baseball here, but if you can take all these things of dedication, devotion, work ethic, and now apply them to what eventually baseball goes away. But if you can even apply them to your school and apply them to your relationships and your friends and your family, if you can do that, and that's what I was always trying to do, no matter what we were talking about, whether drill, winning a game, whatever, what team unity, no matter what we were talking about, it always could be applied to the greater good. And that's what I was trying to do. That's what I want mostly to get out of this is 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 that they knew that I was trying to help them for the next level of life, actually. And knowing that I help it, when you do it for a high school kid, now you're really kind of getting on a level that is different. Of course, they're scratching at the surface of their ability, but they're also going through life in a much different place. Girls and cars and hormones are starting to get in, so life lessons are a lot more applicable. But those same lessons that can help you be great at your sport or your music or your craft or whatever it is, if the lessons that you're being applied are the right ones, they can be applied to your personal life. And that's what I want to get. That's what I want now. And now that I have more of God in my life, I could hammer that thing, that lesson and those messages home a lot more clearly.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could ever be a coach like you.
Mm.
Not, and I'm not even talking about the winning aspect of sports. I'm talking about wanting to win. I never like losing. I hate it when they postpone a game. I would get upset and mad, because of rain or whatever. Well, what's rain got to do with competition? And I kept on thinking like that. I want to play, you know. But no, it had to have been great for those kids to have someone like you to coach them, because of your background, number one, and your loyalty to your family. That means you're loyal to God and the principles of God. Maybe you weren't a Christian at some point, but that doesn't
I'd say
matter.
I was, but I didn't know how to put the God into the game,
Yeah,
let's
well,
say.
there's pastors, there's people that speak to God every day, preach to God every day. They're still are growing into God. So
Absolutely. It's a constant journey.
that's correct. It's always, and it's always room to learn. There's one thing I can say about the Bible. I'm going to talk about the Bible real quick. You can read a verse over and over and over. The 3 Sundays later, you hear the same verse, but all of a sudden, that same verse hits you. Now you get it. Bam. That's happened to me several times.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like, it's a spirit, I don't know, or it's God talking to say, hey, wake up, brother. This verse right here, it's applying to you right now. And bam, it hits me. I've heard it a million times. It just, I didn't get nothing out of it. But one day that same verse will hit will get you, man. And it's like you feel convicted, all that good stuff. And so,
Absolutely.
I,
And the same verse may have a different meaning.
Different meaning, yeah,
or a deeper meaning, and that's the beauty of going over and over again the Bible, because it has so much loving meaning to it. And that's the beauty of helping these kids, because the guys, you want them to realize it. And part of me coaching and realizing helping them is I want them to know I knew what I needed, if I had a chance to do it again, what I would have brought to the table. And so I tell them, here's what you need, here's what you need to do, here's what it takes. And then you throw the spiritual part of it in. You don't have to worry about them being the greatest. I don't care about being the greatest. What I want to be is the best that God made me. And I would tell every one of my players, you don't know, Raul Farias may be, he's the one who's supposed to be soaring at these heights. And I want every one of you to be happy for him and clap for him. It doesn't matter that you wanted to soar on those heights. You just be the best that you can be. And whatever level that guys want you to soar, you go soar those heights, and they'll have any jealousy or any envy. Just be you and be the best you can be, and be totally happy for anyone else. So how's that apply to your work ethic, your practice things, and even your games? You're like, I want you to play the best you can be. I want the other team to be the best they can be. So when we whip your tail, then we can say, great game. We did our best. You did your best, and we still were better. I want you to be your best. I hope and pray for your best, injury free, and let's have an awesome game.
There you go. Yeah. And those kids that learn from you are going to take that through their lives, they get married, those same principles of life,
Take those principles, apply to all parts of your life.
It's all parts of life. It's great, man. So now I do know, I've known you for many years, and I've known your dad. I've known Chris. I've known Danny. I've known Mike. I know Brian. I played with Brian a short stint in the Latin American League. He was a heck of a pitcher, by the way. He has some crazy pitches, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know there's been some death in your family. Unfortunately, because I really like all, they all affect you, right? All of them affect you. They affected me when I heard Chris passed away, because I remember the times I was at your house. But his wife, Becky, for whatever reason, she was such a sweetheart to me. She was a very nice lady to me. I'm sure she was to you.
Yes.
But that, and I know Danny passed. I didn't know Danny very well, though. He was an older one, right? The oldest.
He was the second. He was second under Chris.
He was under Chris. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So, but when Becky passed, I don't know. I felt sad for both of them, but I really feel sad for Chris, because I known him. I spent a lot of time with him when I was growing up in high school, spending the night over there at your home, and and playing sports with Chris as far as pool table, and even Daryl Drake's father was there plenty of times. He spent a lot of time there. But Becky hit me, because she was such a nice lady. It's like, oh, what do you mean? I mean, how did that affect you? I mean, I know it affected you, obviously, because that's your sister-in-law. But and your Chris passed away. They all affected you, Larry. But what could you say? I know when, and the reason why I bring this up, I haven't had none of my brothers pass away, and they're up there in age. I don't know how I'm going to deal with that, and I know, it's a cliche, it's God's will and things of that nature. It's part of life, dying. But did a part of you go away as well, or is it different for you? I don't know if you can even think about other people that have gone through. I haven't gone through it, so I don't know what to expect. I know my mom and dad passed not that long ago, and it affected me, but in a way, it was a blessing because they were, especially my mother. She was in pain, so it was like I'm happy she's with the Lord, things
Right.
like that. But when it comes to your brothers and they're not in pain, they just die, or whatever, or like Becky's situation was abruptly,
Correct.
and that's I could deal with things where they have a long illness, and I can see, okay, thank you, Lord, they're with you now, that kind of. But when it's abruptly like that, it affected me because I knew Becky. I didn't know her like I don't know her like a good friend or anything like that, but I know that she was part of your life. And what affected me mostly was that how did it affect you? Because I thought about you more than what I did about Becky, because she was such a big part of your life because you grew up in that home.
Mm-hmm.
So to me it was like a second mom kind of, or maybe an aunt,
Right.
well, she
Mm-hmm.
was your aunt, but that close relationship did affect you at all, or as far as
Absolutely.
having bad days or things of that nature? I'm sure it did.
Well, the fact that it happened a little bit older, of course it did, and I felt bad because it was shocking, and especially now we're older, we're 63 years old. At the time, I
Amen.
was 48, and Chris hadn't approached his 60th birthday, and I felt so bad for him. I felt like he was going to be lonely. But as we go over these many years later, and I have lost my brothers, I think the biggest thing that I say when anyone asks me, or that I think internally to myself on quiet moments, I think because I didn't have God all the way with me in that I could speak on him. When I reflect back on it now, I feel bad that I didn't get to go and talk to my brothers about Jesus. Hey, what does Jesus mean to you? Did you have him in your life? Let's just talk about it a little bit and just see what he said, and then see where the conversation went from there. And I didn't do that with any one of them. I knew a little bit of it, but not enough because I was just coming to. I mean, again, I went to church all the time. Going to church doesn't mean I knew any of the stories in the Bible and how they can affect your life. And the Bible is one big love letter. And knowing that now, there's so many stories that are applicable to any part of your life, no matter what situation you may be in. So for me, going through these things, I wasn't armed with the stuff that would have been helpful. And so what I miss now is, oh, I wish I would have felt this as much more as I have to get growing and learning about the Lord. I feel more like I would have ran to him. Hey, let's talk a little bit, knowing this is the end. Let's talk. And it shouldn't have to be wait till it's the end. Is my point. It should have been something that we were talking about on occasion or every day. But I wasn't. But I certainly would have liked to have done that when it was towards the end. And I didn't get to do that with either one of my brothers, my mom a little bit, but I did get to spend time with my mom as her life was in, she was close, so I got to go around. And Carrie's mother actually stayed at our house, and hospice came here. And the funny thing is with her, I didn't have the overwhelming emotions of the close family, so it wasn't there was not a lot of cluttered stuff. Oh, I will get angry, or we might say something. With her, it's just, hey, I just want to be there for you. And so things were starting to happen to where I felt comfortable to go in to her and say, hey, do you mind if I read this Bible verse to you? It seems just scratch out conversation. So I was able to do it a little bit with him, but that's the thing that I miss the most is just to talk about God, and knowing that each one of us are going to have our moments where we're going to exit stage left and go to heaven, or it's going to be an abrupt one. Sometimes the ones that linger are hard and hurtful, but you get a chance to talk about these things that maybe wasn't part of our conversations when we were younger. They weren't. They should have been the source of our conversations when we were younger and source of energy, but they weren't. So for me, when I think back on them, I hate that I remember all the good things that he did for me. I remember the things that should have been done better, but I remember that I wish I would have talked about God with him. And it's the wonderment of what's I'm just praying that they're in heaven above. Uh, but I just wish I would have talked with him more about it, had a frank, open conversation about the Lord. That's what I think about when I think about my brothers that I've lost.
So Larry, I wish you well. I wish Carrie well. I wish all your family well. I'll be looking forward to coming to your home at the Special Old Man Olympics it was that you
Yeah.
invited me to.
Absolutely.
I don't know what
Anybody and
that
everybody is welcome.
I don't know what that consists of, but I'm going to win either way.
Well, I hope you do. You're a winner if you come.
All right, brother. Thank you, and talk to you soon. All right.
Okay, love you, man.